What is up, everybody? This is your boy Phil over at the SayWhatchaLike Sports Podcast, bringing to you today the recap and review of the 2017 Dallas Cowboys season. And man, there have been some ups, there's been some downs, highs, lows, peaks and valleys, man. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about the good. We're going to talk a little bit about the bad. We're going to talk about some of that ugly. We know we've been all over the place this year as Cowboys fans following this team, and we're used to it. We are used to riding the roller coaster that is the Dallas Cowboys at Jerry World ever since Jerry bought the team back in '89. But sticking to the 2017 Dallas Cowboys, this team finishes with a 9-7 record. That's good for second in the NFC East, and for the first time since 2007-2008, these Cowboys finish with back-to-back winning seasons. But just like 2008, this 2017 team is a bit disappointing because they miss a playoff berth. Both those teams, the 2008 team and this 2017 team, both had high expectations after the team had a young quarterback rejuvenate the team, grab the number one seed in the NFC, have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, but lose in the divisional round. So, it feels like I've been here before as a Cowboys fan. Now, surprisingly, the Cowboys offense finishes 14th in both points and yardage. And after the high expectations that this offense set from the previous season, I find it shocking that the Cowboys defense finishes 13th in points and 8th in yardage. Yes, this was a top 8 defense in the league for 2017. That's another shocker, because if you would have went back and told me in the preseason that the defense was going to outrank and outplay the offense throughout the course of the season, I would have laughed in your face. There is no way I'm believing that one, but that's the way the cookie crumbles in 2017 for these Dallas Cowboys. Let's get into the season review game by game. Let's start with Week 1. On the schedule for Week 1 were the hated divisional rivals, the New York Football Giants. Now, these were two teams that were expected to compete not just for the NFC East, but compete and represent the NFC in this year's Super Bowl. But that just goes to show you how much all those experts know. You can never take a team's success from the previous season and think that it's going to just automatically apply into the next season, that is, unless you are the New England Patriots. But back to the game. The Cowboys win this game at Jerry World 19-3. They were feeling good about themselves. The defense was impressive, particularly D-Law and the pass rush. We have not seen a pass rush like this in a long time. That's what I remember thinking. I remember thinking, damn, where did this pass rush come from? Now, the offense struggled a bit at times throughout the game, but you know what? After going 0-2 against the Giants and this vaunted defense 2 times last season, I was just happy to get the win, and I felt like there was no reason to hit that panic button. Now, in Week 2, the Cowboys travel up to Mile High and suffer, in my opinion, what was the worst loss of the season, 41-17 at Mile High. I mean, this was the game where I started to see the cracks. It was time to raise a couple of red flags with this Cowboys offense in particular. What I found most shocking about this game was just the way it went down. They were straight dominated. I mean, the Denver defensive backs were just pushing around the Dallas Cowboys wide receivers, and even more shockingly, the Denver D-line was just having their way pushing around the vaunted Cowboys offensive line, and that was just something that I was not used to seeing over the past couple of seasons for these Cowboys. And that's when I first noticed, you know what? This might be a problem. Right tackle Doug Free retired in the offseason, and left guard Ron Leary left via free agency. He's playing for the other team, the Denver Broncos, and that's when I started to see that there are some cracks in this offensive line. La'el Collins was starting at right tackle. It was his second start at the position. it was, a learning curve for him. He was having to grow into the position. And then Chaz Green and Jonathan Cooper were splitting reps at the position. They were still trying to figure out who was going to be the starting left guard as the season continued on. And this was the first of the Cowboys' offensive line struggles, and it was ugly in week 2. Things get better in week 3. Thursday Night Football, the Cowboys handled their business with a 28-17 win over the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this was that infamous pre-game kneeling that Jerry Jones did with the players, but kneeling prior to the national anthem and then standing up for the national anthem. A whole lot of distraction about a whole lot of nothing. I want to talk about what happened in the actual game on Thursday night. I remember Dallas struggling in the first half of this game. Again, just furthering those previous concerns off of week 2 on both sides of the ball. And I remember Fitzgerald, even in his old age, was just abusing the Dallas Cowboys cornerbacks. But on the other side, the Cowboys defense was showing me some flashes. DeMarcus Lawrence, he was showing me that he was going to be the Cowboys' new war daddy for 2017 and was going to be a mainstay in this defense for years to come. After week 4, the Dallas Cowboys found themselves at 500, going 2-2 after the loss to the LA Rams at home, 35-30. Now, Zeke straight woke up this game, and so did the Dallas Cowboys offense. They put up 30 points, and they were moving the ball all game long, and it really proved to me just how valuable establishing the run is for this Dallas Cowboys team. Now, unfortunately, Todd Gurley also had some fun because he was straight shredding the Cowboys defense without Sean Lee, and it was this game that I remember realizing this defense was just going to struggle going forward without Sean Lee in that lineup. Week 5, another heartbreaking, gut-wrenching loss to the Green Bay Packers, 35-31, and the Cowboys dropped to 2-3 on the season, going under 500, and now I'm straight worried about this season. Aaron Jones eats up the Dallas Cowboys run defense, and it gets ugly late in this game because it wasn't even Aaron Rodgers that put the dagger in our hearts. It was Aaron Jones. This run defense was looking very suspect without Anthony Hitchens and Sean Lee. After suffering 2 straight heartbreaking losses, the Cowboys get a bye week in week 6 and then return to form in week 7 as the Cowboys dominated the San Francisco 49ers on both sides of the ball, blowing them out with a 40-10 victory. Now, what was most impressive about this game was, once again, Ezekiel Elliott. The Cowboys rushed for a season-high 265 yards on the ground, and the only thing I have to say about this game is I still absolutely do not understand why the 49ers would cut linebacker Navarro Bowman and then go on and play Eric Reed at the linebacker spot the same week they're facing the best running back in the league in Ezekiel Elliott. But then again, that's why they lost by 30 points. Week 8, the Cowboys defeat Kirk Cousins and the Washington Redskins by a score of 33-19. Zeke has another impressive game, just running over that Washington defense on a rainy field. And Dallas takes advantage of the decimated offensive line of the Redskins, and they go 4-3 on the season. Then we get to week 9, and the Cowboys pull out a victory 28-17 over the Kansas City Chiefs. And in my opinion, this is the most impressive win of the season because this was the game where I felt like both the offense and the defense seemed to be clicking at the very same time on the very same game. The Cowboys beat the Chiefs and now are on a 3-game winning streak. It's halfway through the season. The Cowboys are 5-3, and it seems like the offense and the defense are rolling, and it looked and just felt like the Cowboys were about to be that force to be reckoned with, just like they were in 2016. And then Week 10 happened. That's the week where the Cowboys took it on the chin from the Atlanta Falcons with a 27-7 loss. And Week 10 is the week that I can definitively state this was the week that the floor just collapsed out from under the 2017 Dallas Cowboys. Because after a lot of back and forth court battles between Zeke and the NFL, Zeke's appeal gets overturned and the 6-game suspension begins. And this is pretty much where the Cowboys' playoff hopes virtually ended. And with no Zeke, no Tyron Smith, that means no offense for the Cowboys. They finished with just 7 points. And to add insult to injury, Sean Lee leaves the game early. And both the offense and the defense are now pretty much just helpless during this game. So helpless on offense, Adrian Claiborne sacks Dak Prescott 6 times alone off the backup tackle, Chaz Green. I believe they gave up 8 total sacks to the Atlanta Falcons in this game. It was a mess. And I gotta admit, even I was surprised that Chaz Green played that bad because Chaz Green played well in 2016. He looked like a legitimate backup swing tackle for this team. I think where this team went wrong was in training camp, the Cowboys coaching staff was trying to switch Chaz Green from right tackle to left guard. And he was going back and forth in training camp and even so far into the first few games of the season. And I think that never allowed Chaz Green to get really comfortable playing either of these positions. And I think this is where the coaching staff got exposed for all their experiments and their lack of adjustments, and especially making quick adjustments, because the Cowboys just suffered probably the worst mental defeat they've suffered in years. And in all honesty, I feel like Dak never recovered from the beating he took both physically and mentally in this Atlanta game. Then Philly comes into Dallas, hands the Cowboys a 37-9 loss in just an ugly game that I'd like to forget. The defense, I do remember them holding up their end in the first half, but the same old story. Dez and Dak failed to spark the offense and get anything going. Cowboys failed to reach double digits for the second week in a row. And Carson Wentz was straight looking like the MVP, torching the Cowboys D in the second half. And that's where you get the 37-9 loss to the hated division rival and eventual NFC East champion Philadelphia Eagles. Up next, we got to talk about the Thanksgiving Day, and on this day, the Cowboys really did not have much to be thankful for, at least on the field. They take a 28-6 loss from the LA Chargers, and this was the third pathetic loss in a row. Again, the Cowboys defense plays well in the first half, but in the end, Phillip Rivers and Keenan Allen carve up the Dallas Cowboys defense, and just to make matters worse, the Cowboys now have lost 3 straight and fall under 500 this late in the season. They are 5-6 at this point, and the only thing that I can speak to a positive would be it finally led to changes in the defensive backfield. And those defensive lineup changes helped big time because Chidobe Awuzie and Kayvon Frazier really shine in the 38-14 win over the Washington Redskins, and I think they really showed that they are some good young players looking to make a difference for this defense in the defensive backfield for years going forward. We look like we found 2 young studs, and this was the coming out party for them. The Cowboys continue the momentum and get a 30-10 victory over the New York Giants in New York, ruining Eli Manning's return to the starting lineup and sweeping the New York Giants in the 2017 NFL season. Dak had a big bounce back game after a few games of having some less than spectacular statistics, shall we say. He bounces back, has a big game, and this was really the last good game for Dak Prescott because after this game, his struggles really continued, but at least for this game, Dak bounced back and hopefully he can return to form in 2018. Then the Cowboys travel up to Oakland into Raider Nation, stealing a 20-17 win in a game that shall forever be remembered as the flashcard game. I mean, it was an insane fourth quarter, but in the end, the Cowboys win their third straight game after dropping 3 straight, so they go 3-3 during Zeke's 6-game absence. Now, Zeke is all set to return next week against the Seahawks in an elimination game. And in the elimination game, that's exactly what the Cowboys do. They get eliminated officially from playoff contention after losing to the Seattle Seahawks 21-12. And all I can remember from this game is they did not give Zeke the ball on 1st and goal on the 3-yard line over and over and over again after you wait 6 weeks for Zeke to return and you don't give him the ball with your playoff hopes on the line. I was sick to my stomach after this loss. I didn't want to watch football for the week. And quite frankly, I really didn't have to, because in the next game, Dallas returns to its winning ways, winning a very unimpressive 6-0 over the Philadelphia Eagles. This game was a straight snoozer. The Cowboys looked terrible on offense yet again, and this time against the Philadelphia backups, and they still looked awful. And all I can say about this game is hey, at least Jason Garrett didn't go 8-8 for a 4th time. The Cowboys actually get back-to-back winning seasons, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast. In the end, it was just a pretty shitty way to end the season, to be perfectly honest with you guys. Cowboys continue to be a good road team, going 6-2 on the road in 2017, but that just shows you how Jerry World really isn't much of a home field advantage for these Cowboys. The Cowboys finished with a 3-5 home record, man. Man, roller coaster there. I mean, it's a roller coaster ride just about every single year if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. I mean, it's really funny because in the end, when you think about it, this Cowboys team won 4 of its last 5 games. But I just don't feel the momentum. The offense was struggling through most of those games. Our quarterback was regressing through most of those games. Don't even get me started on the Dak to Dez connection. Don't get me started on the boneheaded mistakes Ezekiel Elliott made in the offseason to get himself suspended for 6 games, because I think that's the biggest reason we're outside of the playoffs. I mean, we can talk about this, we can talk about that, we can talk about coaches, owners, everything, but missing Zeke is what hurt this team in the long run. I want to cover this team very closely during the offseason. I want to put together a couple of podcasts in the coming weeks. I want to cover the free agents that are currently on the team. Who do the Cowboys need to re-sign? Who do they need to let go? Hey, maybe Earl Thomas is in the cards. The Legion of Boom looks like it's about to break up, and Earl Thomas followed JG to the Dallas Cowboys locker room or right outside of it and said, hey, come and get me. I also want to do another podcast on reviewing the roster by position groups. I do need to talk about Dez and his contract situation. I think that's a very hot topic for Cowboys fans this offseason. Of course, everybody's piñata. We got to talk about the coaches, what they're doing wrong. It seems like these coaches can't do anything right, but they're going to be retained for 2018, and we're going to talk about what's good about it and what's bad about it. Again, guys, thanks for listening. This is the Say What You Like Sports Podcast. Please subscribe if you're listening to us on YouTube. And also, if you'd like to call into the station, ask some questions, and even be put on the air during a podcast, download the Anchor app and call into the station. I have no problem answering questions about the Cowboys or pretty much anything going on in the NFL. So please feel free, download the Anchor app, call into the station, and don't forget to subscribe. click on some of these videos where I also have Cowboys content as well as power rankings and other NFL teams. So until next time, guys, I am Phillip Enriquez. Thank you for listening to the Say What You Like Sports Podcast. And even though it might not be a great time to say it, go Cowboys.